on motherhood and motherhood on social media, and I kind of thought I knew where I was going to go with this. And I don't like to really think about things too much before I start filming, just because I get too much in my head. But I decided as I was walking up the stairs into this room that I kind of want to take this back a little bit further and take it back to my childhood, because it does kind of start there as far as like who I am today as a mother. So that's where I'm going to start, because I just feel like that's kind of important to why I am the way that I am today. And since there's no cuts or nothing in this video, I'm just gonna be kind of like rambling, and if I'm like and I'm touching my hair and all that kind of stuff, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of like going with the motions. I really don't know where I'm going with it. I'm just gonna talk. So a lot of you guys know this, but when I was younger, when I was born, my mom was obviously, she was around, but just for a couple of years, and she was no longer around when I was around 5-6 years old. I'll actually never forget the day that I last saw her for a long time. And it's crazy because from that day until today, until now that I'm almost 30, we actually never talked about that moment. And we recently talked about that moment about a month ago, and it kind of just all came back to me, and that's why it's kind of like fresh in my mind. But yeah, I'll never forget the day she left. I was coming from school. I was at a bus. I think it was in kindergarten. We were living in Montreal, Canada, and I want to say it was like fall, so I was wearing like a jacket. And I was the last kid on the bus every day, because I lived the furthest. And I lived in this really, really high apartment complex in downtown Montreal. And I remember my mom would always be there at the corner waiting for me to pick me up, or my dad. And I just remember getting out of the bus that day and just feeling really strange. And I look at the corner, my mom's not there, no one's there. And so I see, like, in my vision, like really, really far, right in front of the door at the apartment, I see like people like talking, like a group of people talking, and I couldn't tell if they were arguing. But so I'm running, and I have this huge smile on my face, because as I'm running, I start to see my mom, my dad, and my brother. My brother was a baby. And then as I get closer and closer and closer, I see them fighting, like arguing, like at the top of their lungs, like arguments, like all this stuff, you know. And so I get closer, and as I get closer, I see my mom. She didn't look at me. She was dead looking at my dad. She was arguing with my dad. She had a friend with her, and they jump into a cab, and that was the last time I saw my mom for like a really long time. And so yeah, I'll never forget that moment, and I feel like that moment has always kind of like stayed on my mind. And I remember getting into the elevator and going back into the apartment, and my dad just locking himself in the room. And I was 5, and I had my little baby brother, and I just remember just being really strong, and I just knew she was gone. I just knew she was gone for a long time, which had been a couple of years. She actually never came back. She ended up moving to Florida, where she lives now, which was honestly the best decision she ever made. I'm so glad that she actually moved. So my dad raised us, and from that day on, I took my mom's place in a way. Like, I became the mother in the family, and I took care of my brother, and I did everything for my brother. I was already like a very naturally like nurturing person, so it was like to another level. And I just remember being really strong and never really showing my emotions, and just kind of like taking day by day. And I knew my dad was my, like, he was my hero, he was my everything, he was my king. Like, I just remember seeing him as, you know, our caretaker, the person who took care of us. He did an amazing job. He was the best dad in the world. You know, a lot of things happened over the years that I'd love to share with you guys, you know, more specifically on different like conversations that I'm gonna have with you guys. But so that's where it started. I became like a mother really early on, and that's how I saw myself, which isn't right, I think. Like, you know, it's not a good or a bad thing. I just feel like it's really young to really start being like a mother figure kind of in a family. And so that's how I was, and I took care of my brother. And so as time went on, I ended up moving with my mom in my early teens. I think for like middle school, I ended up moving with my mom. I think I was in like, I want to say I was in 6th grade. Yeah, my dad ended up moving overseas, and so long story short, I ended up being with my mom again, which was what I was craving for so many years, and I was so happy to be with her, and our relationship got stronger, and you know, things were never really the same, but I feel like it was definitely needed for my mom to grow and have growth in that time. And I don't know, I just kind of like, you know, learn a lot from that experience from my childhood, and I was kind of like a closed off person for many years. And the reason why this is relevant is because when I had kids, I devoted everything to them. Like when I first had Elle, I was super overprotective. I actually had a friend tell me the other day, he was over, one of Austin's friends, and he was like, yeah, you never let anyone watch Elle for the first year. You didn't even let anyone hold her. And now looking back at that and thinking back at that, I'm just like, wow, that was really who I was. Like, I was super overprotective. I just like had immersed myself so much into her. And that's one of the reasons why I breastfed her for 2 years, because I was just so attached to my daughter, and I was more comfortable with her sleeping next to me. And that's another thing that I want to talk about too later on. A lot of the things that we go through today, and a lot of the ways that we do things, have a lot to do with our past and a lot to do with traumas. And so one of the reasons why my daughter sleeps next to me is because of some of my traumas from my childhood. And like I said, like I just said, I want to talk more about that later on. But so yeah, as a mother, and being on social media has been really hard on me. I feel like it's something that I never really talk about, not even to like my family. I just have this very strong exterior, and on the inside, I feel like I'm almost like a prisoner in my own mind, because I overthink things too much, and I feel like it has a lot to do with my childhood. Like, genuinely speaking, for the first couple of years of being a mother, I felt guilty taking a shower. Like, I felt guilty. Like, I felt guilty putting makeup on. I felt guilty looking at myself in the mirror. Like, things like that were so difficult for me because I just felt like I wasn't being a good mom. And then, you know, I feel like postpartum is a real thing, and I genuinely don't feel like I had it to an extent. I feel like every woman has it some way, somehow, in a way. But for me, I feel like personally, I feel like my postpartum or whatever was me just feeling like I was doing or wanting to do too much and not letting anyone help me. Like we joke around about changing diapers and stuff, but to be honest with you, I did not let Austin change her diapers because I felt like I'm the mother, I should be doing it, and I kind of enabled him over the years. And that's something that your partner gets used to, you know. And the whole feeding thing, you know, I never used bottles, you know. I breastfed, you know, so he never really fed Elle, and so I feel like that also enabled him in a way. So that all has to do, again, with what I saw growing up and what I felt like I needed to do to be the best mother, because I felt like I didn't want what happened to me. And the only reason why I really genuinely feel comfortable talking about this now is because I have talked to my mom about it. And for many years, there's things that I wanted to talk about to you guys. And our channel was never really the place, just because of how we started you know, what we started filming and what we would say. And it's such an open platform that anyone can just kind of tune in, and it was really overwhelming for me. And I felt like if I would talk about certain things, it would hurt my family, like my dad and my mom and stuff. So I never wanted to talk about anything. But I feel like now that we have this like world where I can genuinely speak to our real genuine supporters who have been here, you know, and who know me, who want to know more, yeah, I feel like now is the time. And after speaking to my mom recently, just getting that out there and just kind of like